What's cracking, YouTube? Thanks for tuning in to watch this shed building project. I didn't start filming this until we had started doing some of the groundwork. And so I want to take a moment to just introduce the project and kind of how it came about before we jump into the rest of the footage. My wife and I visited my in-laws one day, and my father-in-law and brother-in-law were discussing building a shed, a tool shed, in their backyard. I was not brought in initially, which is no skin off my nose, it's fine. But as they went out in the back to discuss some stuff, I mentioned to my mother-in-law, I asked her if they're planning to do a proper floor for this tool shed, meaning getting gravel down for proper support and drainage and everything else. Because I could see my father-in-law overlooking that aspect of it and thinking that maybe he could just level off the ground and then just set the shed down on it. My wife reminded her that I had built a similar shed and a barn at my homestead. And then I said, well, my real credentials are actually come from doing a year in construction. So I just reiterated the importance of getting a good foundation or they'd be redoing it. And she must have said something to my father-in-law, because the next time we visited, he came down and said, hey, we're building a shed. I understand you have some experience. Can I just give you the layout and see what you think? So we went out in the backyard. He showed me where they wanted to put it, and I started sharing, the importance of laying down some gravel for the foundation, and started asking him some other questions, and he didn't know the answer. He said, we've picked out a prefabbed shed from Lowe's. They've got a demo up in the parking lot. Let's just go take a look. So we drove over there and looked it over. And one of the things we discovered is that they sold the kit in two variants, one with a floor and one without a floor. And the price between the two was like $450. So as we're driving home, I'm thinking in my mind, this is an 8x12 shed. The floor that they had in the demo was literally 3 sheets of plywood on a 2x4 frame. And I'm thinking to myself, 3 sheets of plywood and however many 2x4s shouldn't add up to $450. So we got back to their house. I grabbed my phone. I priced out pressure treated. I priced out a bunch of 2x4s, and I came up also pressure treated, and I came up with just over $300. So I told my father-in-law, I can save you almost $150 if we do the floor ourselves. And he said, okay, that sounds like a good idea. We can do that. Well, the next day, I'm in church, and the thought dawns on me. If they are overpricing their floor by, 30%? They're probably doing the same thing with the shed. So Monday, on my break between jobs, I stopped at my local Lowe's. They had the same shed put up in their parking lot. I go look at the shed. I counted all the materials. 2x4s, plywood sheeting or OSB sheeting, the roof, the hinges that were 6-foot piano hinges. And I got an idea of what all the materials were, the trim pieces and everything else. Just got a good idea. Came home, priced them all out, wrote everything down, and I found that I could save my in-laws roughly 45% if we did it ourselves. And I told my father-in-law, I've got a table saw, I've got a cutoff saw that'll make really quick work of this project. I don't think paying someone else to make these cuts is worth almost twice the price. So they decided to go with me, and I was brought on as the lead contractor, so to speak, for a volunteer job, pro bono job. over the course of about another 2 weeks, we kind of got our plans together. I went back and took some measurements of the demo, like the height of the door, and everything else, and we got a game plan. And ultimately, I told my father-in-law, I've got experience with wood floors and concrete floors. And wood floors, you will be replacing 2 or 3 times before you step away from this home. And I said, a concrete floor, I think you'll be much happier with. It's more expensive, but with the amount of money you're saving, you'll still come out ahead. Ultimately, he decided to go with the concrete floor. And he later said, after we started putting up the walls, he said, I'm really liking this concrete floor. I think that's one of the best decisions we've made. So he was very happy with it right from the get-go. The other thing is he was not too keen on me just kind of building it from my head. So to put him at ease, I did take some time to put down on some graph paper kind of a pseudo blueprint of the shed. And while I was doing that, I did have an idea for a design change in the roof. The original one was kind of a gable that just peaked at the top, and that everything above your head was pretty much wasted space. I suggested to them, and I did a drawing of this, that we do just a slanted roof. 7 feet at the low end and between 9 and 10 feet at the tall end. And I told them, if you do that, number one, it'll really cut down on, some cuts and things we have to make for the roof trusses. And also it will give you some headspace. You can actually put a shelf up on the tall end and get some additional storage. You can use that space. My mother-in-law liked the idea. I liked the idea. My father-in-law was hesitant. But ultimately, he decided really to just kind of go with it. It was a battle he didn't want to fight. And after we got the walls and things up and he could see it and he got a vision of it, he was like, okay, I'm okay with this. This is going to work. So we got together on a Friday and staked out where things were, did some string lines to get our square or our box rectangle. And we cut out the grass, got most of the grass removed on Friday evening. On the way home was when I decided this project would be worth filming, and Saturday morning on our way back, the day to do the floor, put in the gravel and the concrete, that's where we jump in with the videoing. We did the rest of the project, so we'll jump there and enjoy the rest of it. Put down in the comments. This was not a perfect build. I made some mistakes along the way. They're not catastrophic, but if I was to do it again, there's a couple of things that I would do differently that I think would be better. But ultimately, it's up, it's stable, it's sturdy, and the in-laws are happy with it. So enjoy the shed project. Good morning. It's kind of early on a Saturday. Headed to the in-laws, and we are working on building a tool shed. So I'm bringing you in after we've already kind of got started. We have dug out the sod and removed the necessary dirt. And last night we got the frame ready. We are going to pour concrete. That is most of today's task. So last night we got our rebar frame started. It's about 2/3 done. And then today we need to take out a little bit more sod just to allow our frame for the concrete and gravel to get put into place. And then we need to put our frame down and then start bringing in the gravel. Now I'll show you when we get there the gravel was delivered yesterday morning. I found a calculator that tells you how much gravel you need, and it came out to exactly 1 cubic yard. Well, what was delivered looks a little, well, let's just say all three of us, my father-in-law, brother-in-law, and myself, either think the calculator was off or they didn't bring us a full cubic yard. So we'll see. We won't know until we start getting it in the hole. Now with the gravel, I elected, rather than to do 4 inches of gravel, to just do 3 inches. Since this is a tool shed, the heaviest thing that's going to be in it is probably a lawnmower tractor. Or a riding lawnmower, if you will. So I don't know, I'm not too concerned about shorting 1 inch of gravel, especially since we're gonna have 4 inches of concrete. So with that said, the in-laws' house is just around the corner here, and I'll show you the gravel, show you the hole, and then we're gonna start getting going on framing. And then I've got a little trailer that I hook up to my four-wheeler that's acting like our wheelbarrow, and we'll use that for the gravel. There is our gravel pile. That doesn't look like a cubic yard to me, but I'm not positive. We'll find out shortly. All right, so there's our frame for pouring concrete and gravel. And here's our hole, 7 inches down, which gives us 3 inches gravel, 4 inches concrete. Got to take a little more sod out for the frame, but it will go back in once we remove the frame. So it's just temporary removal. And what we have started on the rebar is over here. We are going to have some going this way. We're going to put those in after we get it in place for weight, and of course tie them all in with some rebar ties. So that's where we are at so far. All right, we have dug out the rest of the hole as needed, I believe. We'll check it here in just a second. I'm waiting for my father-in-law to come help me lift this frame into place. We do have, as you can see, a sprinkler line running through there. So I've notched corresponding spots to cover that. So we'll get this frame in place and then check it for level and do any adjusting. And then this is our load of concrete, 60 80-pound bags. And just like the gravel, I found something that calculates how much you need, and the calculations specifically for this Quickcrete is like 59.5 bags. So these 60 bags should be just about right. So yeah, as soon as we can get this frame in, I'll show you one other thing on this frame. So these are 2x8s, which means they're actually 7 inches, excuse me, which is exactly what we needed. That saved us some cutting, so that was kind of nice. So, and then I marked a chalk line, as you can see, 4 inches from the top. So that's going to be our concrete, which means, so 4 inches here. This is upside down at the moment. And then 3 inches here, which is exactly our dimensions for the gravel and the concrete. So once we get that in place, we'll fill the gravel up to that chalk line, tamp it down, of course, and then the cement will be ready for the top. All right, we are ready for gravel. We've got our weed barrier down. Frame is in place. It's all level, ready to go. And work smarter, not harder. This beats the wheelbarrow. All right, gravel is in and compacted. We've got the rebar in, as you can see. Just finishing the ties. We've got just one more row off. Got some spacers to keep the rebar up until we get the concrete in, and then we'll move those so that the rebar is kind of lining up in the middle. We've got our mixer. Hose. We're just about ready to start pouring. All right, it took about 4 hours, but we got the concrete pad laid. We've got anchors put in, which the wall will attach to. This side where we started is already hard, almost hard enough to walk on. And we finished up this end over here. It's still pretty wet and pretty soft, but overall, I think it's looking pretty good. It is Monday afternoon, and here is the pad. I can feel some ridges and stuff as I'm walking on it, so it's not perfectly level on top, but for what we need, I think it'll be just fine. And with some adhesive under our runners, floor runners, I think it'll be just fine. Let me see here. Yep, anchors are nice and solid, so this will be a nice sturdy pad for the shed. So father-in-law and I are about to jump in the truck, run over to the home center and start grabbing the lumber so we can start doing the framing. And here's a look at it without me in the way. You can kind of see some of the ridges, but like I said, they won't make a significant impact on this just being a tool shed. So as long as, I think my only concern is getting the bed or the boards to seal basically, and I'm going to use some probably some adhesive under it to take care of that. So I think that'll be totally adequate. All right, back working on the shed, getting ready to put up walls. We first had to take the frame that we used for the concrete and the gravel out. My father-in-law tried to get a head start on that and ended up smashing his finger pretty good with the hammer. He's off to urgent care or someplace to get stitches. I'm guessing, I'm gonna say he's gonna get 10 stitches. It's pretty deep, it's bad. So, in the meantime, I'm continuing on. So I've got the first board set here, kind of floorboard or runner, and you can see how the anchors are going to work. This one obviously got too close to the edge, but it is what it is. We'll have to work with it. And so now I'm going to see if I can get the rest of this wall built. So I'm going to take a 2x4. This is a trick I learned when doing construction back in the day. I'm going to put a 2x4 on top, which is going to act as the what's going to be the top rail, and then I'm going to measure from that for my vertical posts to get the 7-foot height that I am after. So that will tell me how much I need to cut off, and it'll cut out some of the math. So that's what I am on to next. Okay, I've got my studs cut. I need 7 of them for this long wall. I cut them at 6 feet 9 inches, because then when you add the width of the ceiling rafters, it'll be at 7 feet, and the 7 foot is where I want the low side to be. So those are cut, ready to go, which means I'm ready to start doing my frame. I've got a countersink drill bit in here. I'm going to countersink the ends just to help prevent some splitting, and then we're going to get some studs put on this baseboard, and then I'll have to do a 2-piece top board because we didn't get a 12-foot 2x4. We just got 8-footers, but that was part of the plan. So countersink, and we'll start getting some frame going. For the first time ever, I get to channel my inner Norm Abram and say, well, good morning. Last night I stayed until dark and finished the frame for the back wall. It's ready for the OSB sheeting, but I'm not worried about putting that on right now, because for this back wall it needs to be painted before we can put it up, because there's not enough room between the fence and the back wall for the painting to take place. So that needs to be done first. So this morning, my goal is to first get the sod put back in along the border. And mostly that's to happen before the sod that we took out dies, and it's pushing it, so I got to get that in. That will also help the gravel and stuff that is falling out right around the edges kind of lock back into place. After that, I want to finish framing the other sides and maybe get cutting the OSB to the lengths or height that it needs to be for the walls. So that's the objective this morning. Start by moving some sod. Also, I do feel like I should give an update on my father-in-law. So he did end up hitting his finger with a sledgehammer while trying to hit a crowbar to take out some of the spillover concrete. He was trying to break that up again to get the sod in, and missed the crowbar and hit his finger. That was the cause of his injury, and he did end up getting 5 or 6 stitches in the finger. But he was in good spirits last night when he got back. which was as my wife and I were just starting to clean up the tools. So he's going to be all right. He's going to mend just fine. And so that's the update on that. Hopefully I can continue this project injury-free. Good morning. It is a new day. Yesterday, the grass took up most of my time. I wasn't able to get to much framing. This morning, I'm starting out by taking a grinder to get rid of some of the edges here so that our baseboards will line nice and flat. So I just picked up a new grinding wheel, masonry grinding wheel, and I'm going to make quick work of this and then get to some frames. Okay, grinding is done. That didn't take too much time. So I got my edge off of here. Didn't really need to do anything in this spot. It's pretty set, but I did have a little bit of a ridge right here that I took down and just kind of smoothed everything between these. And then also the edge on this side. One thing I have noticed, I can get out of the shadow here, I've got my first crack in the concrete right there. So I'm not too concerned about it at the moment, but a bit disappointed I've got a crack already. It's probably about, what, 18 inches? Starts about right there and goes to about right there. But the rest of the slab does not seem to be compromised in any way. And then yesterday, my in-laws got the panels for the back wall, the sheets painted, so they are ready to put on, which means we're just about ready to do this back wall. So I do need to cut those to length, or to height, at, it's like an 1/8 inch under 7 feet. So I think I may do that first. Get them put on this so that this is ready to go, but I don't think we'll put it up until we've got some sidewalls to complement it. And brace it is really the important thing with that. All right, well, my mother-in-law just came and helped me feed the OSB through the table saw, cut the top foot off. They are pretty much 7 feet long, maybe an 1/8 under, which is perfect. I did double check my measurements, and if I had gone exactly 7 feet, I would have been in good shape. So the next thing to do, we're ready to put the sheets on this frame. So I'm going to move this frame over to the pad, and where it's a nice flat surface, and then bring those sheets over. I'm going to start with the one in the middle, and then if I have any leftover on either side, I can rip a little bit off of the ends if needed. So get this moved and then get the middle sheet on. All right, so we've got the back wall in place, side wall in place, and we're gonna have to call it a day here. I could stick around to do one more wall, but we ran out of adhesive that we're using under the baseboards as kind of a sealer. And so decided to call it a day. I've got another job to get to. So we're gonna pack up for now and come back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday morning, and we should easily get the rest of the walls up tomorrow. It's supposed to be a really nice, pleasant day. And we may even get started on the roof. So this is coming along pretty quickly. But that's where we're leaving it for today. Those two walls are tied in together, so they're holding each other up. And unless the wind kicks up, this other side, we do have it anchored in. You can see the anchors right there. So we do have it anchored in to the concrete. So it'd take a pretty good gust to get it to move at this point. So that's where it is. We'll be back tomorrow. Good morning, we are back at it. We've got the other wall built, same as the first one, and now we're getting ready to do the front wall with the door, which adds a little engineering. We've just cut our 2x10s right here to our full length, and now we got to build the king stud. All right, good progress is being made, but we are at a little bit of a stopping point. We've got to run to the store and pick up the remaining materials. But as you can see, we've got the front mostly framed out. Now, I think I mentioned earlier that on this back wall, there's a seam right here on this top rail. This is a 8-foot and then a 4-foot, and that's what they had on the demo unit in the home center parking lot. And so that's what I did, but I found that to be a weak point as I was moving that wall around, even with the OSB and everything on it, holding it together. It still flexed quite a bit there. In fact, you can see that my original screws kind of pulled out, blew out the side. So I had to remove those and change my angles and do more of a toenail for those ones, for that one board. So to avoid that, I've convinced my father-in-law to do one full 12-foot piece. So we're gonna go pick up one of those, the supports for the roof, some 2x4 10-foot length pieces, and we need only one more piece of OSB to be able to finish both this wall and the roof. And then we've got our 2x4 12-footer, and then just everything else that we need for the roof we are ready to pick up, which is going to be tar paper, shingles, drip rail, all that kind of stuff. So I think we're gonna go get that. We should, when we come back, have everything we need to finish this project, which is, you know, pretty exciting. We are back. We've already gotten back to work. Got our top rail put in and didn't even have to cut it. It fit exactly 12 feet and a half inch was exactly our gap. So we just finished putting that on. We've got all the studs screwed in from the top, and now we're getting ready to put on the sheeting. So yeah, we're gonna get these on, and then we do have a little bit up here at the top we're gonna have to do, but we've got enough scrap to easily take care of that, and then get this wall standing. So we missed a row of screws on the back wall. So the only one skinny enough to get back there is my missus.
Hi.
Okay, well, here's where we're leaving off. Not quite as far as I wanted today, but pretty good progress. We've got all the walls up. The next item of business is to get the ceilings or roof supports up, which are going to slant this way. So from that corner down to that corner. And we've got the 2x4 10-footers that are going to do that. We will have to cut them to length, but got our doors cut out, and the doors are in there. They will go on after the hinges get here, which will be Monday. And overall, looking pretty good. Here we are on the inside. The outside dimensions are 8 foot by 12 foot, so the inside's just a little bit under that. It's going to be a good size shed with solid floor. Well, good morning. It is Monday. We took Sunday off and now I'm back at it. My primary objective today is the roof, but I did remember after I left that we had forgotten to tie this section of the wall into the frame that's part of this wall because it overlaps. This is where the stud for this wall is. And so the first thing I did before I forgot was drove a couple screws into that to tie that wall together a little bit more. There's also screws going through the studs on the inside through this one, which is right here, into this one. And that's on all 4 corners. So this is tied in really quite well at the corners. Then I got started on cutting my roof supports, and what I have to do is notch them. This notch is just about right. I could take a hair off. I'm gonna have to see how it fits. And then I'm intending to cut this right here, which would be flush with this wall going up, and would make it so that we could add just that much sheeting onto the top and not have any overhang. Now I'm gonna double check with my in-laws if they want that or if they want a little overhang, which would just be decorative. Either way, it's gonna be pretty easy. This I am going to fix this angle down here. I'm just slightly off. So I'm gonna take that little bit out. I'm using the jigsaw to cut these, but I'm using my cutoff saw or my miter saw to cut these, which I have determined is about 13.5 degrees. So once I get this first one done, I can use it as a template for the other 6 that need to go up and then be ready for sheeting. Well, as you can see, I've got my roof trusses on, and generally they look pretty good. They're very sturdy. I ended up having more girth right here than I anticipated, so I wasn't able to drive screws in this way. So I ended up toe nailing, but that's okay. It's very solid. Now my only problem is right here. This is supposed to line up with the wall, not with the sheeting on the outside. Each one of my cuts down this back row got progressively longer. So my first one's right on, and then each one grows until this one. So I think the only tool I have available to me that will be reasonably easy to fix that is a good old handsaw. So I'm gonna go grab that and just cut down. Okay, I made it. I've got the 3 full pieces of sheeting on the roof. It does still need to have the tar paper or felt put on, and of course we've got our end pieces here. I'm not sure where I'm off on my square, but if you look up here, I'm lined up at that corner. I'm lined up pretty well on that corner, that one, and that one, but not on this one. You can see the overhang there is pushing about 1.5 inches. Gradually grows as you go this way, but everything else seems to be lined up really well, so I'm not terribly concerned about that, and I will trim that off before we put the drip rail and stuff on, and nobody will be the wiser. So I'm gonna have to call it a day there. Gotta run home, take a shower, and get to another job. Funny enough, I had my music going. I was listening to, on random, Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture, and right as I put in my last 2 screws, the triumphal chorus started playing. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-dun-dun-dun. and I almost stood up and put my arms in victory mode up on the top. It was very well timed. But anyway, that's where we're at. So next time I've got some trimming to do on both the back and the front, and then we got to put the kind of the gable sides on, so to speak, and then we'll be ready for drip rail, tar paper, and shingles. It's Monday night. Beautiful sunset happening behind me. So I've just finished squaring up the back gables here. This little 6-inch Japanese pole saw made quick work of it for the win. So we also have our first like gable or eave. Let's go right there. Cut. So we're gonna get ready to put that in. Right, it is after 10 o'clock. I've pushed the limits with the noise ordinance, and so it's time to wrap up. But I did get the whole back of the roof done. The gable, the top, all the sheeting is on the roof. The only thing that is left is that spot right up there. And that we will have to do another day, because like I said, it's after 10 o'clock. Noise ordinance has kicked in, so we won't push the limit, but it's coming along. Next time you see me, it should be in the light. Good morning, I'm back at it. So it turns out I got here and I measured what I needed for the face up here, and I happened to have 3 boards that were like the perfect height. So I was able to just put those on real quick. So that's done. So the only thing I really have left to do, let me flip the camera around, is fill this little gap right here. Now I'm thinking that would be a great place to maybe put a screen or something and have that be the vent, because we did not put a vent in. We didn't buy on purpose, but that would be like the perfect vent, but it's too big as it is. So if I can find some sort of screening to put in there, that would be perfect. The other thing is from my work last night, these boards are not all exactly even, so some are a little taller than others. So I've got a couple gaps like right there. And although they're not big enough for critters, this whole one has a gap on it. They're not big enough for critters, but they are big enough for wasps. And we do have a wasp problem in this area. So we'll probably fill those with some silicone. I don't need to do that right now. So it is time to start working on the roof. I just had to run to Lowe's and pick up some screws to put on the drip rail, and that's where I'm gonna start. The one in the back goes on first, and then the felt goes over that, and then the other 3 sides, the 2 sides in the front, go over the felt. So I'm ready. I've got some 10-foot long drip rail pieces right there. So the first one can just go on, and I'm getting set up to do that. So far, things are going pretty well. Got my drip rail in on the end, and I've got my tar paper or felt. Just finished my last row. I obviously have some nails to put in, roofing nails, to get that down, and then we'll be on to the drip rail for the sides and the front. But things going pretty well so far. All right, shingling has started. I've got my first one in place. Got a couple more up here. I don't want to cart a whole bag up here, so I'm just bringing them up in groups. But yeah, so I've got to double this first row, the starter row, to cover the seams in between, but the rest of it should go pretty smooth. So Anyway, yeah, drip rail and everything all installed. Here's where we are. So see how much I can get done in about 15 minutes, then I've got to take off for the day. Just like that, the first row is installed. Doubled, so my seams are covered. It takes about 3 2/3 shingles to do one row, which gives me a pretty good kind of alternate overlap. So it's been a couple of days since I've worked on the shed, but I am back, and my intent today is to pretty much finish up my part of it. So I've got about a third, forgive the AC unit kicking on, I've got about a third of the roof left to shingle, and then that is done. And then the other major thing I have to work on is my father-in-law's decided he wants this door to be about 8 inches taller. So we've already taken the original kind of king stud out, and I just finished cutting these overhead studs, and I'm now cutting the side studs, right, that'll go right here to proper height. And I'm gonna take this opportunity to address one minor mistake. I would dare say insignificant, but since we're redoing it, we'll fix it. This original top piece I put on this way. And what I should have done is turned it up and put it on this way and done 2 of them. That is the proper way to do it. For what this door and shed is, that's not really a big deal. We would have lived with it, but since we're redoing it, I'm gonna do it right. So I took a piece of scrap and put it up on one of those studs, and then measured 7.5 inches up from there, because I do want this stud to hang down about 1/2 inch so that when the door closes, it has something to, it has a stop built in. So that is my goal with that. So I'm gonna get a couple of things cut and get this built back in. I wanna do this before I finish roofing, because in this whole section right here, there's not really any support for standing on the roof. So I wanna get this back in before I start standing on the roof to do the shingles. King stud is back in. So obviously it's screwed to the stud next to it, toe-nailed at the bottom and top and on the studs. And I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but the demo that we looked at and got our layout from used a little bit of the side sheeting as a spacer to get the width just right. So I did the same thing. What 6 or 7 in there? So that is all in, and now I've got proper support to be on the roof, which looks like it's getting ready to maybe rain just a little bit. So I probably need to get up there and get the rest of those shingles on. We are back on the shed, and today's main order of business is doing trim. We've got one corner piece already done, being put on. Got the other corner is done. We just need to drill the pilot holes. And as soon as the wife finishes the prime on this side and it dries a little bit, we'll be able to put the doors and the hinges on. And then we have also decided that we're going to cover up all the seams with trim, and that's mostly decorative because we did seal those with caulk and adhesive. So we don't need to really keep the moisture out of it. It's just to hide the seam and give the shed a little pizzazz. So with that, I'm gonna get working on the next corner, which is a tall corner. Right, things are coming along nicely. We just had a rainstorm pass through. You can see the remnants of it behind me. That gave us a chance to see how the roof was working. It's working great. We've got drippage off the back. Let me flip the camera around and show you. So I don't know if you'll see anything now. I can see it. Yeah, there you go. So that's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Sides and front aren't doing anything, which is fine. That's also kind of what we want them to do. And as you can see, we've got the trim up on the two sides are done. We're just now working on the front, and part of the trim is also the shingles. So I've got this first shingle attached. It's operating well. So now we just need to figure out the best way to get our crooked cut door to attach to it. But we're gonna finish the molding and then attack that problem. It is about 10 o'clock, quiet time, so we have to wrap up, but we're pretty much done. Got the door on, got a little bit of overlap on these, and we've got the door handle on. We did have to relieve the 2x4 a little bit to get the inside handle to engage, but it is all functioning beautifully, just like that, and operates. We also have, I don't know if you'll be able to see it up here, we've got one of the bolt latches. Keeps the secondary door. So we've got all the trim on, minus one small piece right here that we will do. And then we've got up here at the top some screen we're gonna put on. We're gonna leave that open to ventilate, but we're gonna put some screen on it to try to keep out the wasps, I think is the primary concern. So we're pretty much there, minus paint, which is not my responsibility. So I think my work here is pretty much done. It is the middle of January and the shed has been done for several months. I didn't realize I didn't really have a good outro, so let me show you the end result. So this is pretty much how it ended up with the all painted and everything. I am hoping maybe this spring we'll come by and fill these screw holes in the finish with some silicone or something. Thanks to the paint, you can see we do have the screen up here providing ventilation. So that's all good. We did have one problem about November. I got called over because the door was stuck, which it kind of is again, feels like. And what happens is with the humidity, give me just a second to get this open. I need two hands. Okay, so apparently it's not quite done. What happens with the humidity is these 2x4s tend to swell just a little bit. So I did bring my block plane over and took quite a bit off of this beam. If you look, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera, but it did bow this way. And we tried to correct it when we put it on, but it still sticks out a little bit more right here than at the bottom and the top. And that's where it swelled up and kind of locked the other door shut. So I did take a block plane and get that taken care of. I believe where it's catching right now is up here on the top. Maybe this paint has something to do with it, but right there I think is what I'm seeing. So we might need to relieve that just a little bit more. But otherwise, it's been really pretty good in here. We do have a little bit of water that tends to seep in through the bottom right here, and it's right around where the anchors are. And our solution for that this spring is we're going to take some silicone and just put a good bead right there. The water from the sprinkler hits this wall, drops down onto that, and then just kind of seeps underneath over the course of a day. The other thing I might do is bring the grinder out and maybe grind a very slight bevel into the concrete to sheet that water away from it. On the sides and the back, that's not an issue because the sheeting on the sides hangs down over the concrete. Obviously not an option here in the front. But everything else on this shed has been really pretty good. It's held up. Now, we've had a very mild winter here in Utah with next to no snow. So, but the inside has stayed completely dry as far as from the roof. And also, we did get shelf put up over the door. You can see we've got stuff on it. It seems to be holding just fine. So all in all, pretty happy with it.